I got a few emails after the last call asking about the prayers that I'm doing. A couple of you were glad that at this level I'm displaying the actual Sanskrit prayer for you. And I'll include in this week's course material a link to a couple of these classical mantras that I have on my website, so you can refer to those anytime. It's the two that I'm using in this course, plus a couple others on there. And there is, for this prayer, Sahana Vavatu, there's a video of me talking a little bit more in depth about this prayer in particular, and how it invokes all 5 of the elements that are described in the Vedic tradition. So it's not really related to this course per se, but it's certainly interesting to teachers and dedicated yogis. So those of you that love the Sanskrit mantras, that'll be there in the course materials this week. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we be protected. May we be nourished. May we together acquire the capacity to study and understand what we study. May our study be brilliant. May we not disagree with one another. Om, peace, peace, peace unto the 3 sources of karma. All right, so welcome to the sort of workshopping class on scripts. In this time, I won't get to workshop all of the scripts of everybody in this course. I didn't receive scripts from everyone in the course yet, because not everyone was able to get to it, or a couple people are 1 class behind. Actually, most of you are tracking along on time each week, even if you can't make it to the live class, which is amazing. But not everyone can get to the homework quite yet, which is totally fine. What I'm hoping you'll gain from this is that even if I don't get to live workshop your specific script, what will come out of this are some principles that you can apply to your script and to scripts ongoing, okay? This is something that, though I'm teaching it, I haven't explicitly codified every single thing about what makes a script effective. So when I'm looking at the script, that's when some more of the principles come out that I didn't lay out in the previous classes. And I want to say, first of all, I unless you name yourself, if you're on this call and I workshop your script and you want to say, this is mine and I have some questions or whatever, I'm not going to name names here, except for in one case where I couldn't do it, I've deleted the names off of the scripts, I think. Only just in case you take things personally that are not personal, or whatever, take things as a criticism. This is, you know, the feedback that I'll be giving is just objective feedback based on my experience of what works. I'm not the end all and be all of yoga nidra, and you may decide that something that I think doesn't work does work, and that's okay. So this is my perspective on this. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Just also that I myself have been doing guided awarenesses with people for 18 years. And that for the first maybe 14 of those years, I did the exact same script every time, usually twice every single class. So you can really take time to refine one script. It was only after 14 years of the same script 2 times a class, of how many classes per week and per year and so on, that I started to branch out with some principles of writing my own new unique scripts. And then it's over those years that it starts to come naturally. The ones, for example, that I recorded for you for this course, some of them were for a previous course. I didn't ever write anything down. I just thought of an idea and I hit the record on my microphone and did it. But that's after a lot of years of, preparation. So these things take time. And as I said, in the assignment, I expect these to be a draft. I don't expect these to be perfect. They get perfected through this process, and they get perfected when you actually do the script, do the process for students, and catch things yourself that are effective versus non-effective, or you listen to the words yourself, which is why I recommend recording yourself and then catching things, which I do all the time. I think something's fine, and then I listen to the recording myself and realize that there was a snag in the language, and I go back and shift it if I can, if it's a recording or if it's something that I'm going to do again. So it's an ongoing refining process, in other words. Okay. So as I started looking at your script, so I just looked at the first couple lines of some of the scripts that came through. So this is really going to be live workshopping. I have not prepared I've not prepared edits to everything. This will just be in real time, but I took a glance at some of them at the beginnings, and this is a list of some things that come up initially, and then I may add to this as we go. So one is that command language works really well. Sort of the way that you would speak if you're talking to a pet. Lovingly, you would say, sit down. You wouldn't say, please, I'm going to ask you now to sit down if you will, right? So simple, direct, clear language even can be done in a loving way, but command language takes you out of it. And again, I spoke about this last week, that you want to be responsible, but not in the way, out of the way, yet responsible. And command language really helps with that, because it's non-personal and you're not inserting yourself, your personality, your desires into the language. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about avoiding poetic or flowery language that has a place, and I love using metaphors and so on in my teaching, but it can be a distraction to the mind in a yoga nidra setting. Something that I learned when I studied creative writing a long time ago was to, I think they use the expression, kill your baby or something like that. Notice if you have a favorite line in your guided awareness and take it out. Or if it's really beloved because you believe it to be effective, then repeat it. But if there's one standout line, other than the actual contemplation sankalpa itself, one standout line in the midst of the script, you love it, it sounds good, it's very appealing, it's likable to you, you are stuck in raga, okay? And so you want to take it out, because raga is a distraction to the mind. It's superficial manas, and we're trying to get all the way to anandamaya kosha. So get rid of your favorite line or two that's in there. Watch out for something that sticks out. That could be your favorite, or it could just be something that we'll notice as I go through workshopping some of these. There might be a stick out word or phrase, and we'll take it out. Even if it's good, if it sticks out, it's a problem. Don't use descriptors that may be inaccurate, or that trigger students, and that'll make more sense when we come across some of those, okay? Be boring, be repetitive. Like they say, read a boring book in order to fall asleep. We want the guided awareness to be a little boring, very repetitive, to draw the mind inward, not something where the students are going like, I love what they're saying, I don't want to miss the next line, please let me stay awake to hear the rest of this beautiful script, okay? Don't make it too desirable and beautiful. let go of the need to entertain. This is something that I say to teachers all the time. Be boring, don't be entertaining. And that's especially true in Yoga Nidra, okay? So now what I want to do is get out of here. Where did you all go? There you are. Okay. Why? I don't know what it means. Can you guys see me, or do you all see me primarily? You see my video? Okay. All right. So I'm going to switch the screen in a moment to actually pull up one of the scripts at random. There's no favorites. Okay. But if you have any questions or comments right now, this is a good time. Nothing? Okay. So now, let me see which one's going to open up here. Okay, great. Okay. And share. Okay, you guys see a script here on the screen? Great. So we're just going to go through this. So the theme is non-effort. Great, clear, simple theme, obviously aligned with the teachings of yoga, non-effort. And the writer of the script has given this contemplation, which is right out of the second pada of the Yoga Sutra. By relaxing effort and fixing the mind on the infinite, asana is perfected. Great. Okay. Gently begin to notice that you are breathing. So starting with the breath, as we've talked about, without any need to change or manipulate it, just notice there's breath right now. The cycle of inhale, then exhale, in and out, rise and fall, expand, deflate, fill, empty. Now, this is all good. Relatively neutral language about what the breath is doing. No matter what kind of breath it is, the inhale expands, the exhale deflates. The inhale fills, the exhale empties. That's all accurate. Then where I've highlighted steady, smooth, even, we don't know whether the person's breath is steady, smooth, or even. And we've already said without the need to change or manipulate it. So here there's a descriptor that may be inaccurate and therefore might distract or disturb the listener. Oh, my breathing isn't steady, smooth, and even. It's kind of choppy and bumpy and so on. And so now the person is into they're in the layer of the manas. Am I wrong? Am I bad that my breath is like this? And so on. So I would just take that part out. But the word complete is nice if you wanted to keep that in because the breathing is complete as it is. Nourishing, supporting, sustaining right here, right now in this moment. That is true because even a choppy breath, an uneven breath, an unsteady breath is still nourishing, supporting, and sustaining. It's still the breath. Okay? And then the person gives the guided, contemplation by relaxing effort and fixing the mind on the infinite. Asana is perfected. And they put in parentheses where this comes from, and I think that's because, rightly so, you don't need to necessarily say where the contemplation is coming from. If someone asks you later, you can give that. I used to, in one of my series, follow up each week with, here was the contemplation, and if it was not my own, here's the source. Okay? All right, so then as the breath continues to flow and sustain all that is you, I love that line. We don't want to love the lines, but I think it's neutral enough and effective enough that I underlined it there. I just think it's accurate, effective language. I highlighted the just to make sure that now the script stays consistent, that you don't say the breath and then a little bit later you say your feet. Then it's got to be the feet. Okay. So I just highlighted that to make a note of it. And then the script goes into being aware of the space around. So begin to become aware of the space around you, the sound outside the room, the sound inside the room. Become aware of your body in this room, the only place that exists for you right now. That's totally true, accurate language. The temperature of the air as it touches the skin. Become aware of the clothes touching the skin. You see how this writer has stayed consistent with the. So wonderful. The language is consistent. Become aware of the support beneath the body. Firm, steady, loving support. I might take out loving because I don't know whether blankets love you, but maybe they do. I'll leave that up to the person. I think that word might distract me if I were the listener. Gently rising up to meet you. That's the, in reference to the support. So let's see. Firm, steady, loving support, gently rising up to meet you. I think, again, it's not accurate language. So if you have someone listening who's quite literal, that might be a distraction. Is it rising up to meet you? I think firm, steady, supporting you is simple and clear enough. Is it gentle? I don't know, because do you have a nice soft carpet? Is it a hard floor? Does their back actually hurt a little bit? Maybe it doesn't feel gentle to them. So I would probably take out that gently rising. Become aware of the places where the body meets the support. Lovely. The sensations there. So we've gone from breath to sound to sensation. All the temperature was also sensation. So good. Become aware of the places where the body meets the support, the sensations there. As you release fully into the support, you drop more deeply into this moment right here, right now. The only time that is real in this moment with breath. The only time that is real. It just doesn't totally make sense. I think I know what is being implied here. As you release fully into the support, you drop more deeply. So I think I would say as you release more fully into the support, because we don't know whether the person is releasing fully, but they can progressively release more fully. As you release more fully into the support, you drop more deeply into this moment. And then the word drop can be a trigger for some people if you're being very sensitive about trauma and triggers. You may not need to be, given who your audience is, but just be aware. Yoga teachers tend to say this, drop the head, drop into meditation, and we take it a little bit lightly, but that word drop could be a trigger for some people. So I might find a different word there if you think you have people with trauma coming to you. So I might say relax more deeply into, as you relax more deeply into this moment, or as you release fully into the support, you relax more deeply into the moment, or something like that. Or you go more deeply into this moment right here, right now. The only time that is real in this moment with breath. So that part sticks out to me, I think, because I don't totally understand it. And I think it's really a beautiful paragraph without that, not needed. Become aware of the feet, the sensations of the skin, the bones, the muscles, the place where they meet the support. Soften there, release all effort of the feet. Fantastic. Become aware of, and now I know now what I'm looking for is I'm looking for repetition of that. That is exquisitely executed line right there. And it completely aligns with the purpose of the guided awareness, non-effort. So become aware of the lower legs, the sensations of the skin, the bones, the muscles, all the way down to the ankles. I have a problem with in just a moment, but I'll come back to it. Soften there, release all effort of the lower legs. So be boring. What this writer did or could have done is copy and paste the first line about the feet, And now make it the next line about the lower legs, and all you're doing is exchanging feet for lower legs. Fantastic. Boring. Okay? Very effective language. I just highlighted down to the ankles because it's not quite painting the body. We started with the feet, then we said lower legs, then we're back down to the ankles. So I would just go from the ankles into the lower legs. And it can still be in the same line. You could say become aware of the ankles into the lower legs. The sensations of the skin, the bones, the muscles, all the way through the ankles and lower legs. Soften there, release all effort of the ankles and lower legs, if you want to say ankles. Or you could just say ankles as a transition point and then focus on the lower legs. Okay, but I wouldn't do lower legs, then back down to the ankles if you started with the feet. Become aware of the knees, the sensation of the skin, the bones, the muscles, front and back. Soften there, release all effort of the knees. Now, I know that this person didn't do front and back with the other parts of the body. With the knees, that's okay. You also could have done the tops of the feet, the soles of the feet, the fronts of the lower legs, the backs of the lower legs, but you don't need to. There's something about the knees and the elbows where you can say the front and back or the inside and the outside when it comes to those joints. It's fine. It doesn't seem to distract the mind. Become aware of the upper legs, the thighs, the sensations of the skin, the bones, the muscles. Here, the gentle heaviness that sticks out to me. I don't know if my thighs are gentle. Maybe my thighs aren't heavy, or maybe they are heavy. I don't know whether that's accurate. Maybe I want them to be heavy and they're not. Maybe they are heavy and I wish that they weren't. This might activate some feelings that I have about my legs. It's not neutral and it's not necessarily accurate. Though it is true that the thigh bones are the heaviest, largest bones of the body, but in our Western culture, when people talk about heavy thighs, that is a trigger for some people. So I would just take it out. They are the thighs as they are, okay? Soften there, release all effort of the upper legs. Become aware of the hips, the sensation of the skin, the bones, the muscles, the gentle pulsations. I'm not sure what it means, just like gentle heaviness. If you were going to do a whole guided awareness about pulsation, like prana or the movement of the blood or the aliveness of the body or something like that, then something about pulsations is fine, but then I would use it throughout. So I would take that out. Soften there, release all effort of the hips. So I don't know the first two were very neutral, first three, and then all of a sudden we get a little bit more entertaining. And so this just is the nature of the human mind. You go like, oh, I want to add that in. And what happens is sometimes that the teacher gets bored and therefore worried that the students will get bored. So be boring, take out the extras, not necessary. I'm loving the script. So just don't need those extra parts that I highlighted. Become aware of the pelvis. Become aware of the hips. Or the pelvis, the sensations of the skin, the bones, the muscles, the place where the sacrum meets the support. Soften there, release all effort of the pelvis. Become aware of the low belly. So this gets a little confusing technically because your low belly is really part of your pelvis. So you could choose to do it all as one, the pelvis front and back, your low belly, your sacrum, or you could break it up. That's all there. I would just look at either making it all part of one line, all inclusive pelvis, front and back, or doing the front and then the back, or the back and then the front. The sensations of the sensations of the skin, the muscles, the gentle rise and fall of the breath. So here, I see because the person may be aware of their belly moving with their breath. However, my usual preference is when you're in the middle of the script, unless you're explicitly doing something about the respiratory process as part of your script, I wouldn't necessarily refer to the breath because then we're bringing them back to the pranamaya kosha. all of a sudden I'm thinking about my breath again. The other thing is we don't know where their breath is moving. Anatomy is different for everybody. Their breath may be in the back of the body, may be in the upper ribs, the mid ribs, the low ribs, or their belly may be moving. We don't know. So it may not be accurate when they're being aware of their low belly to then have them be aware of the breath, because the breath may be up in the clavicles for this person. Okay, so from the lower belly into the upper belly, and then the sensation of the skin, the bone, the muscles, the gentle flow of breath soften there. So I may come back to the breath. Let me see whether the breath is consistent here, because this part I didn't go on my own this far. Release all effort of the upper belly. Become aware of the side ribs, the sensations of the skin, the bones, the muscles, the gentle expansion and deflation of the breath. Okay. So then when we get to the chest, there's the rhythmic beat of the heart. I'm going to look through this and then make comments if needed. Release all effort of the chest. Let me go back to the language. Release all. So there's good repetition. Oh, someone's unmuting. Did someone unmute themselves? To pipe in? Okay.
No. So
oh, I see. I got you. Okay. Elbows front and back, just like with the knees. So that's good. Let me see here. Sensations, soften there, release off the shoulders. So we went from the chest to the shoulders. So that's nice painting of the body, the upper arms, the elbows and lower arms. And the elbows, they did front and back just as with the knees, which is good symmetry. Soften there, release all effort. So every time they get to a part of the body, they say soften there, release all effort. Very nice repetition, very nice painting of the body. The repetition as well of the sensations of the skin, the bones, the muscles. So little things here that the person who wrote this will be able to use what I've said so far. Like here, there's the softness of the fingers. I don't know, maybe their fingers aren't soft. Maybe they're a gardener. Maybe they cut their finger. So softening the fingers, so doing a command language, soften your fingers, is different than saying be aware of the softness of the fingers. You don't know whether the fingers are soft, okay? And also I would say wrists. Something gets a little, so when you're writing these, I would do what I did here. I put spaces in between the lines to separate the different sections of the body if you're doing the body in sections. And I do think that's really useful way to write these so that you don't get lost and you keep things fairly ordered and categorized and easy for you to see the repetition. So it's easy to get kind of lost here. And what I'm seeing is, let's see. Oh, we're still in the side ribs. See, it's hard for me to say. Okay, become aware of the chest. So, become aware of the shoulder. So chest, shoulders, upper arms. So painting the body. Elbows. I'm doing this because I saw something that seemed like it jumped. Lower arms. Hands. Yeah, that's where it was. So then, where did those wrists and fingers go? Become aware of the throat. Oh, the softness of the finger all the way. Okay, so the lower arms all the way to the wrists. Great, that's fine. Same as that's what could have been done with the ankles, right? The ankles all the way through the lower legs. The hands all the way through the fingers. Just take out that softness of the fingers probably. Into the throat. So I don't always do this, but then when I don't do it, I wish that I had. Sometimes I might not jump from the hands to the throat. I might track up again. There's just something, it's hard with the arms because you don't necessarily want to go from the torso to jump to the hands and fingers. It's nicely painted down this way, but then they're at the hands jumping back up into the throat. So you might retraverse the arms. It's optional, but something that I sometimes think about when I'm doing this. So you can just say, having softened your hands, arms, and shoulders, become aware of the throat, just painting back up. It's always an awkward thing to figure out if you're doing from top to bottom or bottom to, head to toes or toes to head, what to do with these things that are sticking out on the sides. All right. So the throat, nice consistent language there. Become aware of the jaw, the sensations, unhinge. I wouldn't say that because that's a trigger word, right? You become unhinged. I get what's being said here is an objective statement about this is a hinge joint here and so on, but I would not use the word unhinge. Soften is good enough. What will happen now? It'll allow the natural thing to happen naturally. We go from jaw to forehead. So that's a jump. I might say the whole face, including the forehead, if the forehead is a point of description for you, but I may not jump from jaw to forehead. I might say the whole face, including the forehead. Or you could be more descriptive about the face. All the way to the hairline is fine. The back of the skull. So the sensation of the bones dropping into the support. Again, that word drop could be a trigger from people, and you've already got this word soften so nicely threaded through the script. So you can just say softening into the support or leaning into the support. There's this repetition in this script, which is very nice, that has to do with support and release, support and release again and again and again. So it works really nicely. Just stick with those words. Become aware of the brain. I don't know if I would say settle it back. It says become aware of the brain resting inside your skull. I don't even know if I would say resting. I might just say become aware of the brain inside your skull. Soften there, releasing all effort of the brain. Settle it back isn't necessary, and it sticks out only because you didn't use that language in the previous lines. And sometimes what happens when I look at these is that I see several scripts enfolded into one. You can do a whole other script on settling back. Okay. Okay, so having said that, here it is. So this person begins to talk now about wisdom. Let me see where it ends up, okay? Right, at first glance, talking about wisdom isn't necessary. That looks like it could be a whole other script, so let me just look. Let's go back and review the beginning contemplation, some of that. The only place that exists for you right now, the support beneath the body, the firm support, and of course the contemplation, relaxing effort, fixing the mind on the infinite asana is perfected. So I don't see anything explicitly about wisdom. Of course, there is wisdom in relaxing effort, and there is the wisdom that's revealed when the mind is fixed on the infinite, but the word wisdom wasn't used explicitly before. So it may be fodder for a whole other script. Okay. Let's see. Release all effort here. Smoothing the skin, I would take out. Wisdom shines through, the wisdom that supports and sustains you this moment, right here, right now, the only time that is real. Again, I get it, but it's a different topic, okay? Talking about the only time that is real. Just like it said before, it said earlier also, the only place that you are, something is here, that's also true. I think that's more fitting because of the topic of the script being about releasing effort is more about the body being the place. And so time, the time that is real, or the time is here and now, this moment, and the wisdom that is revealed in this moment, that's another script that you can write. So save it in your parking lot of ideas. In this moment, with wisdom and breath, steady, smooth, complete, resting here. So I would just clean that up and simplify it to be more aligned with the overall purpose of this script. Resting here when the body begins to drop away. Again, I personally might avoid the word drop because I have a lot of people coming with trauma. So I would just be sure here to weave the idea of support and release, relaxing effort, support and relaxing effort, release all effort. So there's support, there's softening, and there's releasing effort. So I would just really stick with that. The language is really good. It's really effective. It's really nice. So don't change it here. When you get to the end, stick with it. Hold steadfast to your purpose in the script. All right. So I would just repeat some of that. You can get a little bit more, you can get more expansive and more subtle, which I had suggested. That's fine, but still stick with the point. So you could say, see, the body drops down, 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 dissolving into the support beneath. That's great, because what's being alluded to here, as the edges of the body dissolve, therein is the infinite in which the mind can settle or be fixed to, what the mind can fix to that infinite that's available when the edges of the body dissolve, dissolve, dissolve. So I would just take out the stuff about wisdom and all of the stuff about the breath. You've addressed the breath at the beginning. They're beyond the breath at this point. And I would go back to this continuing to be support, or, leaning into the support, soften, soften, soften. Let the body dissolve, 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 or something like that. Into the support, if you want to say, or into the support. I would say the support first because that's more physical. Then the dissolve second. Let the body release into the support. Let the body dissolve, dissolve, dissolve. Something like that. I like that repetition of how the repetition is there. The body drops down, down, down. It's just that drop thing. I like the word dissolve. That seems to be effective. So the repetition of down, 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 or dissolve, 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 or resolve, or soften, soften, soften. It's nice to repeat that word again and again. It seems like they will drop in more and more without necessarily saying the word drop. I wouldn't say become one with the space that surrounds, because now we're going back out here. You could say something like that when you're ready to bring them back out. In other words, you don't have to leave this experience as you become aware of the space around you. That too is part of the infinite. But I wouldn't talk about the space around you until after the person's done the silence. They've dropped, they've gone in, resolve, 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 dissolve, dissolve, dissolve. The infinitude is within. They don't need right now for it to connect to that which is seemingly outside of them. Ultimately, that is the teaching. But for now, the experience has to be observed within. And then as they move back out into the world, that teaching can be given, even at the end of this script, potentially. So I would take that out about the breath and the space that surrounds. But I would definitely, there's an opportunity here to talk about the infinite piece. Dissolve, dissolve, dissolve. You are that infinite being, or into the infinite. Remain there. Something simple like that. Okay? Free from effort, resting here. Beautiful. Okay? Silence. Gently begin to notice that you are breathing. So this is my personal preference. I don't think there's anything intrinsically wrong with saying gently. It's just this command speech that keeps you out of the way. This may be a catch phrase for the person who wrote this, saying gently, do this gently, gently, gently. I would just say, begin to notice that you are breathing. It's clean to me, okay? Without any need to change or manipulate the breath, just notice that there is breath right now. Beautiful. There's a repetition here from the beginning, which I love, as you can tell. Softly, deep in the inhale, let it out. And this is a nice time to have a longer, fuller breath. Okay, bringing them back out from the Anandamaya Kosha into and through the Pranamaya Kosha with the breath. A repetition of the contemplation from Patanjali, and then become aware of the support beneath it, the clothing. So here there's a very nice repetition, a little bit of the bringing them back out into the world. So if you wanted to say something about the space around, you can say here, the infinite is here too, or something simple like that. Or all of this is included in that which is infinite, or whatever language works for you. And then wiggling the toes, the fingers, and so on. Taking comfort in that, totally fine. Rolling to your side. Use your arm as a pillow, a moment for breath. Continue rolling to the same side, pressing yourself up to a comfortable seat. Fantastic. So I think overall, this is a really nice script. There's a lot to be learned by everyone actually from this script. It's got really good repetition, a clear and steady purpose. It just, through the progression of the script, starts to get a little, start to lose the purpose and get a little bit excited about all these other things that are opening up. Just save it for the next script that you write about wisdom or something. Okay, but really good repetition to be learned by everyone here. So just going to check in and see if there are any questions, comments, arguments. You can feel free to pipe in if you want to, anyone, or I'll go on to the next.
Hi.
Hi.
That was mine. I just want to say thank you for
Sure.
wonderful feedback. It was very, very, very helpful. And
oh, good. Thanks for the beautiful script. Yeah, nicely laid out. Any questions since you admit that it's yours, claimed it? Okay.
no.
Okay. All righty. So okay. I will add here that, as I have done with my teachers, I do find that it's very good to be, and this is in the yoga tradition, we prize imitation. In the West, in the academic world of the West, what is prized is coming up with something new, right? The newest idea gets the new idea is a PhD. That's as high as you go. You have to come up with something new at the highest level of intellectual pursuit is a new idea. Whereas in the Vedic tradition, what's prized is repetition, right? We have actually families that for thousands of years of their lineage are taught to recite one of the four Vedas. Exactly the same words, same rhythm or chanda, same tune, again and again and again through the generations. The repetition is prized. So don't be afraid to copy your teachers and teachings that have something of value, especially for a period of time. Like I said, I did the same script that was given to me by my teacher for 14 years. This is a tradition in which copying is encouraged. And you don't have to feel driven by a need to come up with something that's completely brand new when you're in yoga. We always bow down to our teachers and name our teachers and honor our teachers, honor the lineage, so that it's not that you're like stealing an idea, but we do value repetition and copying and don't have to come up with something totally new and fresh. And yet also your own presence, your own proclivities and nature breathes life into something. So even when you're copying something or repeating something that someone else has done, it's going to be different through you. And over time, you will adapt what you learn to fit you. So as I said before, this is just my perspective on these things, and I'm the one teaching the class. But your own nature and voice and style can and should shine through the work that you do. But it is nice to follow some rules in the beginning so that when you break the rules or let yourself shine through with even more personality, it's not driven by any sense of insecurity or inadequacy or any need to be entertaining or to be liked. It's driven by a recognition that you have something to say or do that's of use, that's effective, that's beneficial to the kinds of people that you work with, if that makes sense. And in the beginning, when you're learning something, it's easy to get caught. If you go off on your own and get overly creative, it's often driven by insecurities, conditioning, preferences, and a desire to be liked and likable, and so on. And so when you follow a framework and a set of rules, it keeps you clear of some of those things that can get in the way of effective work. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, so what do I want to pull up? So I'm going to pull up one that I haven't looked at all. Let's see. Do I want to do that? No, let me not do that. Whoop. Let me pull up one that I have looked at. Okay. So I'm going to share. Okay. Wisdom. So where the last one started moving into wisdom, we're going to pick up with wisdom. So it's perfect. We'll get to see what a contemplation on wisdom is like. So Nidra script on realizing your inherent wisdom. So great purpose point right at the top of the page, clear, so that you can refer back to that. It's very nice to do that when you write these scripts. Put your purpose at the top. Both of the last one and this one have done that. So welcome to this guided relaxation. Lovely. Settle your body into a comfortable position. You may lie in Shavasana on the floor, taking bolster or blanket beneath your knees and feet. I highlighted feet there just because sometimes the feet, it depends on if you're there in person with people or if you were doing this like via Skype or as a recording. What they do with their feet may vary depending on what they're doing with their knees. So just something to be aware of, like their feet may dangle, they may be supported, I'm not sure. So if you're going to talk about the feet, I might be a little bit more explicit. But that's a really nuanced, specific thing. Okay, to bring your lower spine in contact with the floor, or you may sit with your spine upright in a comfortable chair. If you're lying down, you may like to cover your eyes, to draw your attention further inside. I like that. I highlighted cover your eyes, but for no reason. But I underline draw your attention further inside because that's very nice, effective language. Speaks to the purpose of what we're doing. Why would I cover my eyes? To draw the attention further inside. If you tend to cool down when you relax or you need extra grounding, cover yourself with a blanket or two. If you get hot, you can gently, I would change this may to can. Again, this is a little bit of a personal preference. There's this, in May, there's this like, I'm the boss of you and I'm giving you my permission. So and it also just might be a little bit of a cultural difference in language. So I'm not sure, but I would probably personally say you can remove them because they can, whether I give them permission or not. You are giving them permission by saying this, but there's something about the word may, like, yes, you may go to the bathroom, that sticks out to me a little bit. You can remove the blanket at any time. Close your eyes. Oh, and I like this, putting the pauses in. That can be really useful if you're someone like me who talks a lot. And from the East Coast, I try a little bit to California, slow myself down, but and I've been on the East Coast for a month now, so I'm probably sped up more than normal. It's good to put a pause there for yourself on the paper. Close your eyes and begin to notice your breath. Inhale and exhale at an even, steady pace. Now, I talked about even and steady before, but this is different. It's okay to say it here because you're directing them to breathe at an even, steady pace, not saying the breath is even and steady, if that makes sense. So it's not a description, it's a command. And the command is okay. Ultimately, I would want to see that they're allowed to breathe in whatever way the breath is moving, and you're not directing the breath anymore, but it's okay to direct it at the beginning. So inhale and exhale at an even, steady pace. Allow your breath to come naturally throughout this practice, neither straining nor holding. So I might draw out, if you're going to direct them even, steady, then I might say, a couple even, steady breaths, and then I might more explicitly say, and now allow your breath to move naturally, neither straining nor holding. Sometimes I have even said, your breathing may be smooth and steady. Your breathing may be a little bumpy and unsteady. Either way is fine. Sometimes it's useful to just say it and really name what may or may not be happening and give it allowance, depending on the purpose of your script and who you're working with. Okay. As you move through this guided relaxation, your breath may change pace or depth. Allow it to be exactly as it is. Great. This is your body's wisdom guiding you where you need to go. So what I think is happening here is probably an introduction into the point about wisdom and weaving it into the breath. I would either take it out, though, or be more explicit. I think what's being said here is that your breath has its own wisdom and is doing for you what it needs to do. So depending on whether you're going to do that, whether this happens throughout the script, I might just say that more explicitly I'm talking about the breath. So allow your breathing to be exactly as it is. Your breath is part of your body's inherent wisdom. Done. Okay, I don't know that I would even say this guiding you where you need to go, because maybe you don't need to go anywhere and we're not going anywhere during a guided awareness. So, as you breathe, know that there is a deep, abiding wisdom inside you. I might not say as you breathe, you've addressed the breath, and now you're giving the contemplation here, I think. So you could just say, know that there is a deep, abiding wisdom inside of you. This wisdom, so I highlighted inside. I'm going to come back to why I highlighted that once we get a little deeper into the script. This wisdom is beyond doubt, beyond any misstep. It is yours, available to access at any time for any reason. This wisdom is eternal. It knows eternally. Isn't that nice? Okay. And it's true, right? The contemplation has to be true. That's why that's what I differentiated between some of the affirmations that are out there aren't necessarily true. This is definitely true. Whether the person has realized it or not, it is true. This red line I've put in, and I'm going to come back to the contemplation once we go a little deeper into the script. Okay. Allow your mind to be at ease in this place of eternal wisdom. There's nothing to figure out in this space. There's just you and your body, the home of your wisdom. So this is a useful tool here. What the writer of the script, I think, is doing is saying, I'm going to be talking about wisdom, but I'm also talking about your body, and I need to connect the two. See, the body is the home of your wisdom. Notice your feet. So we're in the body. The wisdom of your toes. So the delicate arches. Now, having done the previous script, the first one always has to get all the bulk of the comments here. So now we know why I highlighted this, because it's a descriptor, may not be true. The person might have really like Flintstone feet, okay? They're not delicate whatsoever. So I would take it out. The mobility of the ankles. They may have metal rods in their ankles. So I would take out the mobility, just the arches of the feet, the ankles. The wisdom of that which walks your path. So I think the walking your path is because we're talking about the feet. So I don't know yet whether that's useful language in the script until we get a little bit further. So I wrote an alternative here in red because I just in case. Okay. All right. So feet. Notice your legs. The wisdom in the strength of your calves, the flexibility of your knees, the power of your thighs. Again, I think that this script could be part of a bigger teaching. All right. There is inherent strength and there is inherent power in the thighs. The last person wrote something about the gravity of the thighs or something about the thighs, right? So we know anatomically this to be true, but in a yoga nidra, it can be a distraction. Okay. There's really great appreciation, I think, woven into this, having appreciation for the body. And I actually think that's another script. I think this person has unexplicitly two scripts, one about wisdom and one about appreciation of or gratitude for the body. So I think this could be pulled apart into two scripts ultimately. The legs. So the wisdom of your calves, your knees, and your thighs. I would stick with wisdom. Relax into the wisdom of your legs or of that which moves you. So we've got the wisdom that walks your path, the wisdom of that which moves you. The legs move. And in the Vedic tradition and in Ayurveda, this is talked about explicitly that the legs are your mobility. The legs have to do with mobility, obviously, but it's drawn out in this tradition in a particular way, which I think is why this is embedded in the script. Notice your pelvis and hips. I would just do hips and pelvis because legs go into the hips and that becomes then part of the pelvis. I think I would say hips, then pelvis. The wisdom in this place of unity between your lower and upper body, the softness and strength here, relax into the wisdom of that which holds you up. So I think there's the appreciation and the wisdom happening here. I think this, I think what's happening here is that the writer may sense that in order to recognize the wisdom, some appreciation is necessary. There's wisdom in my body working for me in the way that it has, my breath breathing for me in the way that it has, and having the appreciation is a link to the recognition of that wisdom. And so I think that could be taught in the form of a lecture or a discussion or journaling or something like that. And then the yoga nidra practice could be done and could be simple, just about the wisdom piece, having done the appreciation as prep work for the wisdom. Okay? Because the appreciation, some of the specificity here is going to vary from person to person. And so if this was a group, that would be then a distraction. If that makes sense. I'm not sure whether that's making sense, but okay, like talking about the softness and the strength. We don't know if it's soft and strong, but I get where that has to do with cultivating an appreciation that allows for the wisdom. What I would say here is that with this kind of script, there there can be a little maybe doubt that are they going to get that there is wisdom inherent in the body? And I would say just take the reins and say, I'm telling you there's wisdom in this body, and then you just repeat it. You just go, and the wisdom inherent in the feet. Blah, 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 the legs, and the wisdom inherent in the legs or your legs. So this is this person doing okay? If that makes sense. Let them be the Ishwara of this script and hold that firm. This is true, and I'm going to take you through a process of recognizing that this is true. I don't need to convince you that it's true because it is true. And we're taking you all the way through the koshas to the place in you that already knows this to be true. Okay? So, hips and pelvis into the torso, the digestive organs, the nerves wrapping through and around your spine, the wisdom of the respiratory organs, your heart. I think this is all good. I think for this script to get a little bit into the specificity of some of the parts of the torso has a utility. I think that's really good. Relax into the wisdom of these functions. Fine. Good. Notice your arms, the shoulders, the biceps, the mobility of the elbows and wrists. Again, so you watch mobility. We don't know whether they're mobile or immobile. You could say the joints, and most joints are designed to move. We just don't know how mobile or immobile they are. The wisdom of the gifts you share. So this is such beautiful poetic language. And then it just can be a distraction. It's like not the place for it, but I would love to see this pulled apart into a talk that primes them for the guided awareness, or that follows up to the guided awareness, or into an article or something. So then, so the hands. So again, from the hands, it's optional, but you might just paint back up. Hands, arms, shoulders, and the wisdom inherent there. And then become aware of your head. I don't know if I missed the neck and throat, but don't forget the neck and throat. Okay. And then into the head and the senses of taste, touch, sight, scent, and sound. Yes, because those are seated in the head. It's a perfect place to address those and the wisdom inherent in those. Into the brain and skull. So I would do probably the skull and then the brain, like in the last script, in the same way that this writer did the torso and then into the organs inside the torso. So the skull and then into the brain, which is the organ inside of the skull. Relax into the wisdom. So, and then again, I wouldn't necessarily say the purpose because it's a whole other teaching that can be unfolded. So into the wisdom of your head. Or your senses, head and brain, or whatever. And then this person goes in to the energetic channels throughout the body, which is totally fine. The wisdom of the chakras moving from your tailbone along your spine and into your head. The wisdom of the nadis that carry prana. I would say the nadis first, probably, if you're going to do subtle body here, because the nadis are what creates the chakras. There are no chakras without nadis. So I would do nadis first, personally. And there's just so much good stuff in here. It's a really good example of, this is all true, good information. The wisdom of that, of your divine essence, that's all really good. Just may not be the right, yoga nidra may not be the right form unless you're going to do a whole yoga nidra on that. Okay. Relax into the silence of this wisdom. Relax into the knowing that you are wise beyond any perceived limits. Relax and be. Yes. And I think that could be, if you take out some of the other language, then more could be said there if needed, or this could be refined even more. Let me go back up now to, so realizing your inherent wisdom. We have the repetition of wisdom, wisdom, wisdom throughout, which is great. Oh, here it is. Know that there is a deep abiding wisdom inside you. So all of this here is kind of the contemplation, I think. And I'm going to copy, and there's so much copy and paste is your friend when you're doing a yoga nidra because you're repetition. Okay. So notice the energy, relax into the silence of this wisdom. So I might say, relax into the silence of the deep, abiding wisdom inside of you, because that's what you said before. And then I really appreciate this wisdom is eternal. It knows eternally. In which case you could lose this, relax into the knowing that you're a wise man, or you could keep it, relax and be, boom, command. Beautiful. So, okay, and then I'm going to talk about those red lines in a moment. Allow your mind to be at ease in this place of eternal wisdom. There is nothing. I might take that out. That's a whole other script about nothingness. Okay? And so I would take it out because you just said there is something. There's wisdom. And then silence. And this person even put in the time. That's great. Keeps them on track. That's useful there to do that for yourself when you're writing these out. Come back to your breath. Inhale deeply, noticing the expansion of your chest. Exhale, feeling your entire torso release. Inhale again deeply. So this is perfectly fine and good to direct the breath at this point, bringing them back from deep in there to the breath. And then making small movements and letting those movements become bigger. That's great. When you're ready, open your eyes and sit up. Bring your hands to your heart center in Anjali Mudra or prayer. Imagine a ball of golden light above your head. So this is like a metaphor for the wisdom and a reference to some subtle factors, subtle features of existence. This golden, I might not even say imagine because it's true. This golden light contains all the wisdom that is available to you at any time. This wisdom is beyond doubt, beyond missteps. That's a repetition of the language from before. Repetition is your friend. Invite this golden energy in through the crown of your head. Allow it to fill your head, neck, shoulders. This is beautiful. Love it. Like you, this wisdom is eternal. It knows eternally. This wisdom is available to you at any time. This wisdom is you. Love it. Really good. Okay, so there's a lot already there in the inherent wisdom teaching, and I would just keep it simple at that and leave the other stuff aside, as I said, for like a talk or for another script. So I'm just going to go back up to these red lines that I added because I had the sense that some of the extra language was there to try to draw a connection from the physical body to the wisdom inherent. That there's a disconnect here is what I want to say. So because here it says the wisdom inside of you. But then the script is talking about the wisdom inherent in the segments of the body itself. So I think that even the writer, without being able to in the draft, at the draft level of things, make the connection is recognizing there's a little bit of a disconnect that needs to be addressed here. I'm talking about the wisdom inside, but now I'm talking about that it's actually all sort of made of wisdom. Okay, so this does stick out to me. I think it sticks out to the writer as well. And so what I would do is I would take out the word inside because it insinuates, is that a word? It suggests that there's wisdom inside of me, but the rest of me is not wisdom. It's inside, and I have to kind of find the right door and open it and find the wisdom inside. So I would take out the inside part because you're talking about the body as inherently wise. So it doesn't fit the rest of the script to say that the wisdom is inside. What is the truth that's being expressed in this script is that the wisdom is inside and outside. It is the source of the body and the being, and it is the material. of the body. And so I just wrote that explicitly. I would take out inside, and if you felt that you needed to fill that gap, you don't necessarily, as I said, need to fill a gap. Because it's true, you can say true things even if there's a gap in the intellectual making sense of it. And but if you wanted to, you could say something like, this wisdom is the source and material of your being or of your body. Okay. And then here I had a red line. That's my addition here. As I was just getting started with looking at the script, because of this additional language that, as I said, is more about kind of appreciation, I would take out appreciation and just leave it at, either leave it at relax into the wisdom inherent in your feet, or your feet are made of wisdom, or something very simple sutra-like. Like a sutra doesn't make really total sense when we look at it, but it is true. These statements can be a little bit sutra-like. Or you can draw it out and say, instead of saying the strength, blah, 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 the delicateness or something, I would say the capacity for wisdom, because that allows for every experience to be included. If you say something like the capacity for wisdom in your toes, feet, and ankles. Okay, I'm hoping that makes sense. So I gave two options here. The capacity for wisdom in your toes, feet, and ankles, or relax into the wisdom of your toes, feet, and ankles. Or I didn't say here, you could just say, which you said, relax into the wisdom of that which walks your path. I would just say, relax into the capacity for wisdom of your toes, feet, and ankles. Or be aware of the wisdom of your toes, feet, and ankles. Or your toes, feet, and ankles are wise. Okay, something like that. Great. So cool how we can follow a script and get so many unique scripts out of it. So I'm going to close that and just check in if there are any questions here. And as I said, if you're, yeah.
It's really helpful.
Okay, you're welcome.
It was really difficult. It was actually really difficult to write without the flowery language. And so.
Right. So I will say, since she's revealing her identity, she's a writer. So this is actually hugely challenging when you have a skill for writing. There's so much there. So it's actually the people that like, now about me that I love bullet lists, like people that are, bullet list writers. This comes a little more easily because there's just less, like, they don't even think of all this beautiful things to say. So having a skill for beautiful writing can get in the way a little bit but I mean, this was a fantastic script, but yeah, that's the little piece which is why I said it's great for a talk that you can give or an article that you can write about the appreciation and connect that to the wisdom. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you. It makes me think of doing a whole class on that topic. And then
Totally. You can do that. Yeah, I see a whole workshop coming out of the script that you wrote. And I think that's going to be true for a lot of you. You have a lot to teach and a lot to share. And, you start these scripts and it's like, oh my gosh, it all pours out of you. And it's not a bad idea, if you are a writer in particular, to let it pour out of you and then go back and pull it apart and go like, okay, let me clean up this script, but I'm going to save all of that because that's all fodder for talks and teachings and yoga classes. And is there a pose that I could teach that speaks to, how our feet, walk us wisely through our lives and so on. So yeah, there's a lot there. I see this a lot when I look at these scripts, that sometimes I'll see multiple scripts enfolded into a script, or an entire workshop or series or something that you could do that's all embedded into the script. Okay. Anyone else? Any questions? Okay. All righty. Let me take a look at this. Oop. Ah. Okay. Okay. Sorry. There's a lot of scripts here. All right. I really mean it this time. Okay. So I'm going to take one that I haven't looked at all at. And share. We get all these red lines when we start using yoga speak, like sankalpa. Why doesn't, Microsoft Word know the word sankalpa? And beingness. Microsoft Word should know those terms. Let's see here. I'm going to make this a little bigger for you guys. Okay. So this is great. Just take, this works well. Some brains will work well to have the kind of tables the way this person just took the table and then they're like, okay, this is what I'm doing here. This is what I'm doing here. So if your brain works like that, you can totally do that. I think that's great. Settle the body. So this person goes, okay, that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to settle the body. I'm going to just go down for a moment to their sankalpa. I found that useful when that was put at the top. So let's see what the sankalpa is, a contemplation. The following words from Nisargadatta Maharaja. Okay. So again, you can say who it is. You don't have to. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. The greatest miracle is your own beingness. Go to the source from where it has arisen. And then also, I am satisfied, whole, and complete, just as I am. So let's see if these are both woven into the script or not. The greatest miracle is your own beingness. So this is going to be about beingness, or it could be about the source from where it has arisen, or I'm satisfied, whole, and complete, just as I am. Okay, so settle the body. Settle into your body, allowing so I'm going to see if that stays consistent, whole body to be just as it is. We'll move through. So one thing to note here, I haven't talked about saying things like we will versus will. In whatever is normal in your culture, talk that way. So if normally people in your culture, community environment say in conversation, we'll go over there, then say will. If people in your environment, culture, and so on say we will, then talk that way. But talk natural. Okay. It's different, when we're typing, we tend to type out we will, but when you're speaking, if instead of we will, you would naturally say will, then say that. W-E''LL. We'll move through, or we will move through a guided awareness. Stating what we're doing. Great. Please know that regardless of whether I might take out the please, but that may be a cultural thing. They don't need to please me. And it's not a command. Like if you're talking to the dog, you don't say like, please sit. You just say sit. It's clean. Know that regardless of whether you stay alert and conscious through the whole practice, or if you drift into sleep and don't hear all that I'm saying, whatever happens for you, good saying for you. You could say to you, and that would sound strange, right? So whatever happens for you through this practice is just perfect for you right now. Rest back and let whatever needs to happen, happen. At any time, if you need to move, make any adjustments to the body or open your eyes. So see, we had to make a choice. The body, the eyes, or your body, your eyes. Okay? No, you are welcome to do this. And I highlighted open your eyes because actually in traditional yoga nidra, we actually say don't open your eyes. Keep your eyes closed. Some people actually explicitly will say, keep your eyes closed and don't move even. But we're not going to do that because this is that sort of more divine feminine approach. It's not this strict obedience way of don't move and keep your eyes closed. But so I do, this is a personal thing, okay? I do tell them you could move, especially if it's going to be a very long guided awareness, you may need to move or shift, that's perfectly fine. If it's a shorter guided awareness, I actually don't say that. I just leave it open. I don't say not to move, but I also don't from the get-go say, go ahead and move around as you need and open your eyes, because we're sort of then, I almost want to say, like, because my kids have been begging me for sweets lately, like if I were to say to the kids, like, you're not allowed to have a cookie, but if you really beg me, then fine. Just know ahead of time, if you start begging me for a cookie, I'm going to give in, which I probably will, but I'm not going to say that. So it's sort of like, don't start them off setting them up to assume that they're going to need to open their eyes, because then they may just maybe waiting to close their eyes, especially if you're dealing with people that have a hard time with surrender. Then you're already just starting them off going like, if this isn't for you, just don't worry about it. Go ahead and open your eyes and don't surrender. So the closing of the eyes is so intrinsic to the surrender, to the letting go process. They can actually stay in the letting go surrender place if they have to move around, but they're keeping their eyes closed. So I wouldn't say that it's okay to open their eyes. I wouldn't also say don't open your eyes, because that's too much, too aggressive and strict, okay? But I do appreciate that, you know, if you do need to move, that's fine. Just ensure that you do it quietly and mindfully, and then return to stillness. And I wouldn't say as soon. There's no hurrying in Shavasana and in Yoga Nidra. So I wouldn't say return to stillness as soon as you feel able to. I would say return to stillness as you feel able to. Okay? Now bring the attention to the flow of the breath. Follow the movement of the breath and allow your breath to be just as it is. So for this person who's kind of bouncing back between the two, I would suggest, and as for any of you that are bouncing back and forth between the two, do a recording both ways. One where you say the, and one where you say you or your feet and so on, or the feet, the breath. See what works for you more effectively as a Yoga Nidra practice. There is a difference, and we do want to keep the language consistent. I personally tend to say you and your, because the difference to me is that saying the about the body is very useful for when we say the about the body, we're drawing out one of the teachings of the tradition, which is you are not your body. Stop over-identifying with your body. It is the body. The body is a vehicle. Okay? So like when you're angry, instead of saying I'm angry, what would be more true would be to say this mind is experiencing anger. Okay, and that's what gets drawn out here. If you say, without saying all of that teaching, it's taking people through an experience of the breath, the foot, the heart, whatever. It's helping people that are overly invested in self-identification with I am the body as me. It's helping them to dislodge from that untruth. However, it also can encourage an unhealthy disconnection from the body. So it really depends on what's appropriate for the listener. Okay? And because the style of yoga that I teach is helping people to care for their body, to take ownership over the body. You are not your body, but you are the steward of your body. Then I choose the language, your heart, your toes, your feet. That's natural to me in teaching, and I find that it personalizes the experience for individual people. But again, there, as I'm saying, there is utility for both. So I would, if you struggle with which one to do, record yourself doing it, listen to it yourself, see what's more effective for you. And based on what I'm saying, you may make a choice, depending on the script, depending on the audience, to go with the or your. And if you have to make a choice, choose the one that works for you, because the kinds of students or clients you attract are going to have some similarity to you. Okay, so that's my speech on picking your language and sticking with it. Okay, so allow the breath to be just as it is through the practice. I'm just going to stick with one here, okay? The breath might shift and change, whether it is subtle or faint, deep or long. Know that whatever is happening is perfect just as it is. Now take a deep breath in, right down to the tummy, and release, then let go. Take another deep breath in and let go. So what I would do is I would just flip this. If you're going to direct the breath, do it first, and then talk about allowing the breath to be just as it is. Okay, so I would just move this just to show you. I would do something like this. Bring the attention to the flow of, see, easily I switched to your. Bring the attention to the flow of breath. Take a deep breath into the tummy. So you're directing the breath. And then I would just say something like, and now after you do that, you could do it even a couple times, this piece where you're directing the breath in and down. Okay. Then I would say, and now allow your breath to be just as it is, and so on. Okay. And then we have this contemplation. I think I would probably pick one, and maybe this person is just giving two options. The greatest miracle is your own beingness. So first, settle into your body. Be just as you are. And then I see, there's a sankalpa and a contemplation. So this is a contemplation. Allow your whole self. So you would say the self or yourself to contemplate these words. The greatest miracle is your own beingness. Go to the source from where it has arisen. So I would do that. Or I am satisfied, whole, and complete, just as I am. Pick one. And now you have two scripts based on two different contemplations here. Just pick one for this one. Begin the inward drawing of the senses. So that's what's going to happen here. Be aware of the environment around you, whole and complete, just as it is. So this matches that sankalpa. Okay. Listen and be aware of all the sounds around you. Now be aware of your whole body. Lying here completely, I think he means supported by the floor. Feel your whole body resting deeper into the support of the floor. Listen to the sounds inside your body, the beat of your heart in the chest. So I'm flipping now too, because I said I was going to stick with the, and now I'm reading it. So allowing your whole body, heart, and mind to simultaneously merge inward now into the space of being. Wowza, that's beautiful. What I'm going to say is it's too beautiful to be there by itself. Then it would stick out. So I want to see a repetition that's like this throughout the script, about this merging into the space of being. Otherwise, it's a contemplation, not part of the body of the script. Very powerful language. I just want to see it repeated, or it's its own contemplation. So we have being aware of the sounds around you, being aware of the body, leaning into the support of the floor, the sounds inside the body, the beat of the heart of the chest. Main script. Now be aware of your head, your whole head. So we're starting at the top, the back and sides of your head, and the space inside your head, allowing your whole head to be satisfied, whole and complete, just as it is. Now be aware of your neck, the sides, the front, the back of your neck, and the space inside your neck. Allow your whole neck to be satisfied, whole, and complete as it is. I'm going to go back up to that contemplation. Yeah. So it's really this. I'm satisfied, whole, and complete just as I am. Okay. You can do a whole other guided awareness or yoga nidra on the miracle of beingness, in which case you would just say, allow it to be as it is. Or you can do something about, you can use this contemplation to go into the source. Go into the source. Something like that. Okay. Neck, whole and complete as it is. Be aware of both shoulders, arms, elbows, hands, palms, and the fingers of both hands. Allow both arms from the shoulders to the tips of the, so very nice, going over the body and then reviewing the body again more briefly. Whole and complete just as they are. And be aware of your back. You get, again, with the other people, you might traverse back up, you know, and back through your hands, arms, and shoulders. And now be aware of your back, the sides of your torso, the front of your torso, including your chest and tummy, or the front of your torso, your chest and tummy. Be aware of your whole torso. So the word tummy, this may be a cultural thing. Whether you say belly, stomach, tummy, abdomen, pick the one that's most commonly used by adults. It's like in America, I think we say like people often say the word tummy to children. And so it's sort of infantilizing your students to say tummy in the US. Did I say infantilizing your children? You can infantilize your children. Infantilizing your students to say, if you say tummy in America, but we do have some international people in this group. So I don't know whether, if this is coming from elsewhere and maybe tummy is used by adults, then it's fine. But it stuck out to me as an American as something that is a word that people commonly use with children. It's funny because I don't use those kinds of words with my kids. So the first time someone said something to our older son about going to the potty, he had no idea what they were talking about. He's like, what's a potty? We call it a toilet. All right. So belly, I use, or abdomen, usually. So that just stuck out to me. Be aware of your whole torso from the inside out. If you're going to say the inside out, do that. Earlier, you went from outside in. So I would just flip that. So here, be aware of your neck and the space inside your neck. So if you're going to go inside, go outside and then inside if that's what you did before. And really, that's what we're doing generally. There is a place to go from the inside out. That's the teaching that as I said with the previous script, the inside and the outside are the same, but to get them in before the silence, go in. Then you can take them back outside later. Okay. The torso. Yeah, so torso inside out. So I would just say the torso from the outside in, allow the whole torso, your whole torso to be satisfied, whole, and complete just as it is. Become aware of your pelvis, your sacrum, pelvis. So you might say including your sacrum. The sacrum is part of the pelvis, your hips, lower tummy, and the space inside. So that's good. From outside in, allow your whole pelvis to be satisfied, whole, and complete just as it is. Become aware of your hip joints, both legs, both knees, both feet, and the toes, or all of your toes if you're going to do you and your, and allow both legs from the hip joints to the soles of the feet and the tips of the toes to be satisfied, whole, and complete just as they are. I like it. I love going to the fingers, the tips of the fingers and the tips of the toes. There's something, sort of the magical point that happens when you bring people extending all the way to the tips of fingers and toes. So that I find that language to be very effective. And then repeat. This is that shorter repetition that I mentioned being optional here. Aware of your whole body. So this person is mostly doing you and your. So I think that's what's natural to them. So aware of your whole body from the head, neck, shoulders, arms, torso, pelvis, legs, to the soles of the feet and the tips of the toes, satisfied, whole, and complete. Just as it is. As it is a yogic speak. You can say that. You can also say just as it is fine. You can say just as you are, just as it is also fine. The whole body, satisfied, whole, and complete. Satisfied, whole, complete. Great repetition. I am satisfied, whole, and complete, just as I am. And then preparing for silence, continue to be aware of your whole body through each and every layer from inside out. So flip it from outside in, from the outside all the way inside. Love that. And rest in being. Rest in being. So this alludes to that other contemplation. So save it for your other script that's going to use that other contemplation about beingness. Okay, I wouldn't do it here. I would stick with what you've got, which is great up here. I'm satisfied, whole, and complete. And then rest in, you can say, rest in being, save it for your other one that you're going to do with that other contemplation. That's from Nisargadatta Maharaj. Just as you are, satisfied, whole, and complete. Leave it at that. 5 minutes of silence. So this person put the time in as well. Then breath awareness. So coming back to the breath, gently become aware of your breathing. Be aware of the natural rhythm of your breath and allow it to be satisfied, whole, and complete just as it is. Now take a fuller breath in and an easy, relaxed exhale. And again, allow your breath to be just as it is, satisfied, whole, and complete. Listen to the sounds. So then this person's bringing them back out. The sounds of the body, the heart beating in the chest, satisfied, whole, and complete. Then moving again. Bring your attention, great, to the fingers and toes, gently starting to move fingers and toes again. Here again, you can say gently if it's natural to you, but you don't need that word. Because I don't think anybody's going to, I mean, some people do kind of jump out of Shavasana, but it's pretty rare. Embodying the fingers and toes and feeling them move again as if for the first time. That's lovely. Feeling into the space around you, satisfied, whole, and complete. Weaving that contemplation back into moving and being aware of the body again. Moving now in whichever way you would like to, stretching in all directions, perhaps bending the knees, your knees, placing the soles of your feet on the floor, or gently drawing your knees into the chest. Oh, this is a pet peeve of mine, drawing your knees into your chest. First of all, if your knees go into your chest, please call a doctor, okay? And also, it gives the suggestion that this is about how close your knees come to your chest. And so you might say toward the chest. Because first of all, as I said, the knees don't go into the chest, nor should you necessarily try to make your knees go into your chest as close as possible. This is a little pet peeve of mine because of what I see in the yoga world, working with a lot of teachers and experienced yogis. I would just say toward the chest. Full feeling and embodiment of this body, satisfied, whole, and complete just as it is. As you become aware of your body, know that you are always tethered. What's that? That's so weird. I'm just gonna wait. Like I'm getting a phone call into my... Okay, they stopped. Okay. Back to full screen. Okay. Full feeling and embodiment of this body. To become aware of the body, know that you are always tethered and connected to this experience. I would take that out. I think it's another teaching. From the inside out, I am satisfied, whole, and complete just as I am. That's beautiful. So I want to go back to that line that I said was so pretty. Where was it? Merging into the space of being. Save it for another script because I didn't see it repeated. Allow your whole body, heart, and mind to simultaneously merge inward now. into the space of being. Someone's sending me a message. Yeah, it's a great line. I'm trying to draw a connection to it, from it to the rest of the script, which isn't explicit, but it's a great, there's something there very deep, which you can use in your next script that you write. Okay. So, oh yes, it's time. So we're just going to do those. I'm going to invite you to time to have questions, comments, and so on. The homework from here, well, let's just do that. Any questions or comments about that script? You do not have to reveal yourself if it's yours and you're on the call. There's no obligation to do so. Yes, Emma, did you just unmute yourself?
I did, yeah. It was my script, so, but just thank you very much. That's really, really helpful.
You're welcome, Emma.
So my Australian New Zealandness must be coming through.
The tummy. Yeah, I think that may be fine in Australia and New Zealand, the tummy. And it's just not an American reference unless we're talking to children usually. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Interesting to know. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, you know, if you're teaching in a culture that's not yours, then that's something to pay attention to as well. Language that you have may be a trigger or may not make sense. You know, if I were teaching in Australia or New Zealand, then I might have to, you know, get some pointers on language that would make more sense within the culture. Okay, so yeah. So the idea here is now that you have watched this process, go now back to your script with fresh eyes, okay? And take into account some of the things that were said about the other scripts, because you can see there's some common places where we get tripped up here because, you know, we're patterned beings and we have the same, we go into the same places. Watch for consistency. Command language, or use command language is what I'm saying. Do, command, do. Command language. Let's see here. Avoid poetic or flowery language. Save it for a talk or an article. Watch out for that favorite line, like that merging. That was like, ooh, I went like, oh, I love that line, but it didn't fit with that script. Watch for anything that sticks out. Don't use descriptors that may be inaccurate or trigger some students. Be boring, be repetitive. Let go of the need to entertain. Okay. The next piece I'm going to save for the next class. Now, yeah, because we're out of time, I'm not going to cover these things. So technically we don't have a live call next week. It was going to be a pre-recorded call because I was running into American Thanksgiving week. And so I was going to do something pre-recorded for you and just make it available to you next week. But I'm thinking I may as well do a live call. And if some of you are on, some of you are on. If you're not, it's no different. I mean, it'll just be recorded either way. So I'll send an email out about that. And then I can cover the things that I wanted to cover and a couple of the things that I wanted to cover last week and didn't get to. I'm going to do our closing prayer. And then I'll stay on for questions. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. That is whole. This also is whole. From this wholeness comes that wholeness. Taking wholeness from wholeness, wholeness indeed remains. Om, peace, peace, peace. And special thanks to the couple of you that let us workshop your scripts live, and to the openness of all of you that did send scripts in on time. And I just can't do them all in a live workshop style, but thank you to those that let me pick things apart and investigate in the way that needs to happen for these things to get refined. That's not necessarily easy to put yourself out there like that and have somebody investigate your words and writing, which comes from an intimate, open place. And so thank you for that. And if you want to stay on for questions, you can stay on. Otherwise, bye-bye. And I'll let you know when this is up on the course materials page. And I'll let you know about the next live class if I'm going to do that, which I think I will.
Kaya, I have a question about music.
Mm.
Where do you find, that peaceful, that non-stimulating music? That some of the recordings that you've sent out have that.
Right. So tambura, you can find recordings of tambura to play. If you're going to do like a live class, you can get recordings of tambura. I think the one, make a note to put that on the course materials page, a couple links. So I do use, I think the recording is called like Music for Deep Meditation or something, and it's just a drone tambura. You can even get a drone tambura machine. If you were like, I'm just in all the way, I'm going to do lots of yoga and then I'm going to buy one of those machines. They come from India. It's called a Shruti machine, I think. And you just play that and it just plays a drone. Or you can get a live tambura player, learn to play tambura yourself. It's a beautiful instrument. So tambura is traditionally considered one of the natural sounds that arises from within the heart chakra. It's considered one of the unstruck sounds. That's a whole other teaching on chakras that I won't get into, but that's one of the reasons why tambura is effective. The sounds that you hear otherwise that are in my recordings, the ones that aren't silent, I actually I pay for and download from like a whatever sound recording online studio that has everything from, hip hop beats to nature sounds to usually what I end up searching is like ambient sounds. And I have to sift through a lot to find things that are effective. I try to avoid piano. Piano seems to really distract the mind. If there's going to be an instrument that's familiar, I might go something more for like a flute. A lot of the ambient sound stuff out there has piano, or all of a sudden gets really fast, or will have like a big loud striking sound or something. I think the Soma has water sounds that I found. So, nature sounds are fine as long as they're not like all of a sudden there's a screeching bird, or you think the idea of like, crackling fire sounds cool because you're going to do an Agni relaxation, but it turns out that it just sounds like static. So, but yeah, I use tambura for, I found like I just Googled like MP3 tambura for background noise, and I actually was able to download something for free, but usually I download something ambient. And in classes live, I just search until I find stuff that's like effective. Yeah. Good question. Didn't address that earlier. Anyone else?
I have a
Yeah.
question. When I'm listening, I know what I think in terms of language or image is triggering, like to me, but I don't have a sense of, and then maybe that's the only way to go.
Start with yourself.
Yeah.
The people that come to you have a natural resonance with you.
Right.
That's who the universe sends to you. Or if you're meant to work, it's not like you have to have shared experience, but resonance, you'll learn. You'll just learn by making a mistake or someone pointing something out to you. Like, I don't remember if I said this in this course, but when I was originally doing a Soma, when I was refining my own Soma script, my original Soma Nidra script had the Soma nectar pouring down. Soma nectar pouring, because in the tradition, as you cultivate and gather the Soma, it flows and pours. But one of my students is like a botanist biologist. And she was like, Kaya, after she's like, I love this guided awareness, but I kept getting distracted because nectar doesn't pour, nectar drips. So who can know? That wasn't a trigger, but it's like you can never have perfect language for everyone. You just start with yourself, and then people will teach you when something isn't working for them, or you'll learn something through a personal relationship with someone, and then you'll go back to a script and realize like, oh wow, if that person were in the room, you know, like they dropped their baby when their baby was an infant, and that like traumatized them, and they're like really paranoid about dropping a baby, or they have nightmare, you know, and you go like, oh, maybe I shouldn't use the word drop anymore. So, but only through your life and living an awareful life, which is a yogic life, and paying attention, then you just keep refining these things. And it's never going to be perfect. And I definitely am not a proponent of making our language perfectly PC. Just if we won't say anything eventually. The idea is not offend anyone, but to be neutral enough to guide people inside. So start with the language that's effective for you in that way. I don't know if that helps, but yeah, start with yourself. And then from there you go with what your students and clients teach you, or what people in your life teach you based on conversations that you have about their life experiences. And then when you go back to the language, you go, oh, wow, maybe if that person were in my class or someone like them, that language might not work for them.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I think there's just Amy and Jen on now. Do you have a question, Amy? Yeah.
I do, yeah. So I'm thinking, so the script that you had us write, more or less like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Say you were going to be leading an hour-long yoga nidra class. How would that structure look? And would you just include more silence, or just like a general?
Yeah. So that's the piece that I'm going to cover next week. And the short answer is that it's going to be a longer script and more silence, both. And the other way to do it that I'm going to talk about is you could have a class that you call a 1-hour yoga nidra and still do a 20-minute yoga nidra if you want, and buffer that with a couple very basic preparatory yoga poses or closing yoga poses like reclined spinal twists, or like self-massaging of the hands and feet and head or something like that. So there's ways that you could keep still a shorter script. I'll talk about why you might do that. But yeah, you're tracking right along with exactly what I'm going to cover next week. I think that's it. Jen, if you want to, actually, we won't stay on this because it'll get recorded, but I can stop. Actually, I can stop recording, Jen, actually, when Amy hangs up, and I just want to check in with you about your email. Yeah. Bye, Amy. Okay. So stop the share. Hold on. If you wanted to stay on for a minute.
Sure.
But don't know whether, I think I can.
I see the recording light.
I know. I think if I just stop the recording. Okay. Yes.